Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I'm your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm delighted to welcome a very accomplished professional, a well-known leader from corporate America, from Florida, USA, Mr. Lou Carter. Lou, welcome to the show.
Ash, thank you so much for having me. What a great show you have.
Thank you. Lou is the founder and chief executive officer of Most Loved Workplace, Best Practice Institute, Results-Based Culture. He's an author of more than 10 books on best practices in leadership and management, and you can see a few of his books next to him. And he's a partner with Newsweek to publish the top 100 most loved workplaces. So Lou, my first question, tell me about your own journey in brief.
Thanks, Ash. I'll keep it brief. I'll definitely. I started out in the field as a consultant for Gemini Consulting, which is now Ernst & Young, and I learned the strategy behind everything and knew that it's not just strategy that drives results; it's the leadership behind it and the transformation. So I immersed myself in a bunch of books and learned all the leaders in the field: Warren Bennis, John Kotter, right, Art Kleiner. And said, I really want to meet these people. So I got a job at a place called Linkage in Burlington, Massachusetts. I went there and I started writing books. I wrote books, which was awesome because there's nothing better to learn than to write. I believe that. That's the way to do it. You just write and write and write. So I wrote books on best practices, and I got to work with all these great people because they understood what transformation really was all about. And that's what I cared about.
Well said.
Really is. So that's where I came to. It's about book writing. It's about learning. It's about researching and finding that special sauce so companies can learn how to really implement meaningful and sustainable change in their companies.
Well said. And what inspired you to found Most Loved Workplace? And what is its primary mission?
So the primary mission of Most Loved Workplace is to drive branding and transformation for companies who place love at the center of their business strategy. So what do I mean by love and why is it important? Because it's a fluffy word, right? And this is what the mission is behind it. Love is in everything they do, and it's related to sentiment. So it's actually a scientific term. The sentiment and emotion behind words and comments and actions. And we found that love is the biggest driver as far as an emotion to business results, both customer and employee outcomes.
Well said. Lou, what are some of the common challenges companies face when trying to create a positive change in their work environment?
It's all internal. It's all internal. Some say, it's inside ourselves. That's number one. A core belief system that it doesn't matter. Love doesn't matter. Most people say it does matter inside of companies. You see love in companies all around Most Loved Workplaces, from dentistry, Springfield Clinic, First Watch. It's awesome for restaurants, for manufacturing, for companies that are deeply enmeshed in customers and employees, for healthcare. These companies, they must have this. They have to have it, because when they're dealing on a daily basis with customers and employees, if we don't do this, the effects can be catastrophic. To risk management can be incredible. To profit, because people won't come back, so your customer churn is higher. Your employee retention is more difficult, and we lose up to 2 to 4 times salary each time they go out the door. When the wrong people go out the door, it's different. The right people go out the door, it's a completely different story. So that's the biggest barrier to Most Loved Workplace for people is senior executive commitment and buy-in, right? Knowing knowing at the top how important that emotion is to long-term business results.
Well said. And how does emotional connectivity among employees impact their performance and overall company success?
Yep. So we always say, what is it like to come to work in the morning and you don't know if you're connecting to the vision of the company? What if you come to work in the morning and you feel misaligned, your personal values with that of the company, right? What if you go to work in the morning and you feel a sense of disrespect from others and you're already feeling disrespect for yourself for making this decision? And how about if you're not collaborating, you're being dictated consistently? Now, for whatever reason, that could be your personality type, et cetera, that could be misfit. And finally, what if you're not given the factors you're needed, the tools you're needed to achieve in your career? So we call this the SPARK model. I just named all 5 elements. And what happens when you don't have these 5 elements? Well, you're not going to give what the company needs of you, because we need as much as possible. Number two, you're probably going to look for a gig or gigs to explore alternate sources of income. Also, you're going to explore different kinds of jobs. So people are constantly doing other things. The third thing that happens that's really dangerous for companies is that when unhappy employees means unhappy customers. Probably have gone into a coffee shop or a restaurant where employees just hate it. You've been with a healthcare worker who is mad at their company, mad at their environment, and it shows. And so that feeling that you get from people, that emotional connectedness that you get from people of being in their job, of caring about the vision of what they're doing, caring about being and serving the company as not just as a servant leader, but also as a steward of your own career success, is eroding in America and around the world today. And it is so needed for companies. It's so needed in this gig economy. So for many reasons. So we can go more into that later, in terms of the overall economic impact. But if they're not emotionally connected, pretty much everything falls apart.
Absolutely. But the other related question for you is that how can companies utilize the data from sentiment analysis to improve employee retention?
Great question, Ash. So what is important to do is sentiment and emotions lie in comments and in conversation. So we get through the comments. We have something called our own BERT analysis. So BERT is a machine learning script that was written for to generate millions of comments on Twitter, now X posts, and we grabbed all the comments, put them through a GPT, called BERT, a machine learning script called BERT, and it spit out emotions like love, hate, anger, etc., and positive, and then sentiment, positive, negative, neutral. So what we did was we grabbed this and made it into the Spark model, which is related to the things that you're asking right now, which is the effects on retention and recruitment and performance. So this is basically customer and commitment outcomes.
Right.
Employee commitment. So and to answer your question, the effects of it, and connection to the metrics is substantial. So when you take the sentiment and you take the emotions, you do it by demographics. So what you need to do is, when you begin your emotion analysis, you begin your sentiment analysis with comments. It's important to add in divisions and departments, locations, and where you could drive into the company. Where in the company do you need to drive in this change? And then identify which sentiments and emotions are most needed at any one point in time. What you do also is, most people look for the negative, and typically when they check in the negative comments, they're just looking at how to fix them, and then they fix it too late. So what I always say is, in order to reduce rater fatigue, so you can continuously ask people for important comments, it's important to find the places where there's high discontent and immediately do quick wins, so they know that you're listening, and immediately upon hearing. And those quick wins, it's so important to celebrate them weekly. So actual things that you've done. These are real investments, by the way. These are actual investments that
Yeah.
you make in people. And I say investment, I mean financial commitments. So it might be something as trivial as a quick rug that needed to be replaced, right, in the break room, or large that is related to a serious complaint, right? Addressing it in whatever format that you can in a human way, going there, communicating, listening, one-on-one is the next step. One-on-one and group talk, right? So at that very point in time, what you're doing is you're showing they're heard, you're discussing and co-creating, you're not dictating it, co-creating with them a solution that's right for you and them, right? And coming to another solution. We do this every single day, Ash, in everything we do in life. Right? We have talks, right? So, and this is what it's about with a sentiment emotion. When you have those talks, now we're on a auditory level. We look for resonances on auditory levels.
Absolutely.
When it comes to emotion as well. We're talking right now. You can hear discontent. You can hear discontent. You can also hear love and happiness and all the other awesome emotions that exist. So when you look at those emotions, to your question, throughout time, right, you see how they change. And that change in emotion is exactly what we do, exactly what companies should do.
And this is such a powerful comment you're making, Lou, that and most of us in the corporate life don't hear what our people are telling us non-verbally. And what you're telling me is you can hear employee emotions is something which is so powerful. But my next question to you is that how can organizations balance the need for data-driven decisions while maintaining a human touch in their own leadership?
Yeah. Good. So without data, it is so difficult to know where your personal, as you said, human emotion should go, right? And especially when you're working with thousands of people, sometimes tens of thousands of people, right, with larger companies. These not knowing that larger collective consciousness can be very destructive.
Correct.
And also, with that matter, it's impossible for any human to do.
Correct.
We can't know every day. We're bringing our full self as a leader, as a person, whatever you might be, managing or leading at CEO level, whatever level. It's impossible to always be seeing around the corners.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. So we need to balance, as you said in your question, which is very adept. You're getting right there, Ash. What the core is, exactly your core of your question is, how do you balance this data? How do you know from data to human element? Well, use it to go in and say, tell me more about this. You must be feeling ... because ... Seems like you are. That's your baseline conversation. And it's as easy as that. That conversation is as easy as that. Use data to inform the beginning of your conversation in the what's up phase. What's up? I saw that this. What's so? What can we do about it? What's happening about it? Right? What's possible? Let's talk about the things we can. Then let's go. Let's execute. And I'll follow up with you monthly, right? Quarterly, yearly. Now we're getting into this balance of the need for data and human-driven decisions.
Well said. So, Lou, one more question relating to data-driven decisions, and I want to move to leadership and management. What future trends do you foresee in the use of data and technology to enhance workplace environment?
Yeah, data and tech is, in my mind, the only way at this point we can fully capture and harness the power of human emotion. And some may be thinking right now, well, Lou, singularity is around the corner. Machines will overtake human emotion. So our job is to in a socially responsible and ethical way, is to continually program ourselves and others in a way that accepts true human emotions, right? So, and also captures the knowledge that we have amassed in our companies from CEOs, from customers, from employees, to train, yes, train, I do believe this GPT to train our language models continually so that we can become a better, more collectively conscious society, not just to train technology, but to train ourselves toward a better good, right? A lot of people are scared of what I just said and want to run. Don't run, because it is a time for you to provide your emotions and to provide your thoughts in tech and to capture it for legacy purposes. For generations, centuries, we've had knowledge that has existed, and we haven't fully been able to capture that knowledge because of our lack of tech. Imagine being able to capture the knowledge back from BCE, back from that 2,000 years ago, every century. Imagine garnering that knowledge, garnering that understanding of a human emotion as changes throughout time. Louis Armstrong said, he liked this, Ash. He said, you'll learn much more than I'll ever know, to generations, in his song, What a Wonderful World. And what I love about that statement that Louis Armstrong said is, we no longer have to be in a stage where our next generation, will learn more than we'll ever know. We'll be able to follow those generations in every single century to come.
Great response. So, Lula, let's now talk about leadership and management, which right in the beginning you told me was an area of considerable interest to you personally. Based on all the leaders you have worked with and interacted with, what would you say are some of the essential qualities of a great leader in today's corporate sector?
So this is a great question, and it's something we all work on. I can't imagine anybody not working on this, and everybody I've talked to does. Emotional regulation is, I would say, the number one thing. Allowing for space, allowing for time, reflection. Some may call this emotional intelligence, of course, being aware of ourselves. There's nothing more important than this, because people judge leaders on a micro level. It's no longer macro.
Correct.
It no longer has been. So every single interaction we have is judged. And as such, we have to have consistency, full self-awareness, a regulation, an understanding of how we impact others. So there really is nothing more important than that element in social systems and society. And I would say is the number one thing. And I've seen very destructive behaviors when it's not present. And by the way, we can still be ourselves. That's something to recognize, is that while emotional intelligence and emotional regulation exists, it's important to harness who we really are, because what got us here, some of the elements might still get us there, right? And we still need to find new ways of interacting if it's not working. Let go of the things that don't work, take the things that do, right? So it's up to you as a leader to determine what is that mix of competencies, skills, knowledge, behaviors, attributes that work in each decision, each new phase of your work, and apply that accordingly.
Well said. And you also do a lot of work in the area of results-based culture. Can you explain to me the concept of results-based culture and its importance to management?
Results-based culture is looking at that metric at the end of the rainbow. The rainbow goes like something like this. The phased approach goes something like this, right? It's a diagnostic, assessment, a design, implementation, follow-on support, and evaluation. So as you might imagine, between the diagnostic phase and the evaluation, which is continuous, there's a gap that occurs. Sometimes that gap is less than where we started, because we get a lot out of it. We hear a lot. We understand what's happening more. We haven't yet addressed it in our implementation. We have to redo it continuously. So results are about accepting and hearing what's happening in your system. So if
Mm.
we might find out in the beginning that we really need to make changes in our restaurant, in our customer base, in our healthcare environment, and we begin to do micro interventions in those areas and
Right.
learn even more. That
Right.
first year might be about learning,
Mm.
right? The second year, when we re-diagnose, results might be different. We might
Mm.
need to do different implementations, more whole
Right.
scale, whole
Correct.
system, rather than
Mm.
implementing in one division, department, location. So results are iterative. They work differently throughout time, and
Mhm.
they give us lots of information about what to do and where to do it
Mm.
inside the larger organizational system.
Mm. Well said. Um, Given the fact of the pandemic and the way the entire work conditions have started to change, hybrid work, work from home, the leadership paradigm has also begun to change. What, in your view, are the best practices for managing remote and hybrid teams effectively for a leader?
2 words: tech stack.
Okay.
So
Yes.
I really believe that the ability of a leader to fully master the tech stack is the most necessary element for leadership
Mm.
in this economy, in post-COVID economy. Uh, Without the ability to understand how to fully manage knowledge, emotion, comments, teams throughout space and time, you're really missing out. Um, and disparate locations throughout the world. I'll give you my tech stack, which is, and what many people are using now with distributed environments. I use Slack, which is phenomenal. I with connected to CRM, of course, HubSpot, some use Salesforce, but having that single source of truth.
Mm.
Other chat environments that are both visual, video, auditory, uh, being able to place in our programming and SaaS work right into that Slack environment. Continual, of course, we hear the Zooms, having your specific meeting structure when you need it, where you need it,
Mm.
having an agile environment. So stand-ups beginning and end of week, discussing where changes need to be made in your inner circle to drive down into
Yeah.
your larger pool of people, and then touching into your larger pool of people periodically to do what I call spot checks,
Mm. Mm.
right? To just say, let me look at that, let me see it, and then making small adjustments. So our current remote workforce is about leaders having tech stack capability,
Mhm.
and having higher tech stack capability means better leadership, and being able to use your ability to touch in and one-on-one manage your inner circle is really what, well, great leadership is about today.
Absolutely. So I have time for two more questions for you. My next question is, how can leaders foster a culture of continuous improvement in their teams?
Mm-hmm. So the way I look at continuous improvement is the agile methodology. I believe in the agile methodology for continuous improvement, and
Mm.
what that is what a beginning of week, end of week. It's constant iteration, changes, and small adjustments. I think of Tiger Woods when I talk about this,
Mm.
because Tiger Woods, he had a point in time in his career where he had his slice was off. He couldn't quite do his slice well. So he got 6 coaches to watch his slice for the
Mm.
period of about 4 weeks.
Mm.
And finally, they were all the 6 coaches were observing him one day because he was about to go on the tour again, and he was doing really poorly with his slice, and they had
Mm.
to do this, crunched in this one point in time. And one coach said, "I got it, Eureka! I know it." And he went up to Tiger and he moved his right hand about a millimeter to the left.
Wow.
So Tiger went in, he ended up, his slice was wonderful. He did it. He won the next tour. It was on a losing streak because of that millimeter change and that hyper focus on performance, looking
Mm.
at it continuously. He was able to make a micro adjustment that made all the difference.
Amazing.
Micro adjustments is really where we need to be in this leadership paradigm.
Mm. Wow. What a great story, and how easily you have explained such a complex question. And my last question to you, Lou, how can leaders balance the need for high performance with employee well-being?
Mm. Carefully and with a lot of, as I mentioned, regulation.
Mm,
This is the hardest thing to do. The hardest thing is that I believe is that anxiety that
mm.
undoubtedly pops up
Yeah.
when there's high performance needs. And having an inner circle of people who can hear you, understand you, is important. I think back to sort of the only the paranoid survive, and which is the book everybody should read because it speaks of a CEO who needed to be paranoid, right, in order to survive. And you know of this, Ash, from your work. I know you and being in so many huge Fortune 500 companies as a leader, and so the importance of being paranoid actually, and is part of high performance. Now, what does paranoid mean? It means you're really paying attention to details, and you're paying attention to the collective consciousness of your people,
Mm,
and you're paying attention to what your customers need, and you're paying attention to what's happening 5 years down the road, 2 years down the road, 3 years down the road. That's a lot of pressure,
mm,
a lot of pressure.
mm.
And so being on that, having that understanding while still, as Krishnamurti says, being in the flow, right? And being able to still move with that flow
Mm.
and be into that kind of Taoist or Krishnamurti methodology, yogic methodology, really of taking a more of a meditative stance
Yeah.
toward
Mm,
these incredible pressures.
mm.
There's no better thing than yoga to do that, and meditation. Transcendental meditation
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
phenomenal for that.
Mm.
So yeah, absolutely.
Well said. And on that note, Lou, I just want to say thank you so much for speaking to me about your own amazing journey. I just love the way you spoke at such length about data-driven decisions,
Thank you,
about
Ash.
most loved workplace. I thought I picked up some very interesting thoughts from you on data and how this can be used for employee retention and for even connecting with employees. Thank you also for speaking to me about some of the best practices in leadership management, about results-based culture, and about culture in general. Thank you for speaking
Thank
to
you.
me, and good luck to you.
Thank you, Ash. I really appreciate you. Thank you.
And
Thanks.
thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.